Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. So in today's lecture, we are going to look at the concept of beneficial microorganisms because generally, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, a lot of people are thinking that microorganisms are dangerous, they cause disease, and so many other things. But truly speaking, microorganisms they have so many important in our body. They play a lot of crucial roles either in the industry or in our body. So they are not only causing disease. In fact, there are some microorganisms that are even of medical application. In fact, we survive because of some of the microorganisms that are present in our body. So in this aspect of microbiology, we are going to discuss more on the use of microorganisms for industrial application, disease prevention, disease treatment, and also other application. So I hope uh, the lecture will be very interesting to all of us. And so please, I just see there's some number of them. Please, if you are here with me, please write on the comment section. Please, can you hear me and can you see my slides? Can you see my slide and can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me and can you see my slides? Can you hear me and can you see my slides? Okay, so introduction to microorganisms. So we know that actually when we said microorganisms, they are organisms that we cannot see them with our naked eyes, except when you use microscope, because generally microorganisms, they are organisms that are very small and they are very tiny, and that is why they are called micro. The word micro means small, then organisms, it means that they are organisms that are very small. So they are small in the sense that we cannot even see them with our naked eyes except when we use microscope. And that is what you call microorganisms. And we have group of microorganisms we encompasses fungi, bacteria, viruses, and protozoans. Each of these are actually a group of microorganisms, and we cannot see them. They are not clear to us because they are very tiny until when you use microscope. So understanding their benefit is crucial for health, agriculture, and biotechnology. So ladies and gentlemen, what I want you to understand here in this topic is that so many peoples or so many students are thinking that whenever we said microorganisms like bacteria, viruses, or fungi or protozoans, they are organisms that cause disease in our body. But truly speaking, that is not true. That is not true. We have a lot of microorganisms that have various applications, and these applications include you can use some of the enzymes or some of the microorganisms in genetics engineering. What is genetics engineering, ladies and gentlemen? When we say genetics engineering, it's a technique in molecular biology where you can alter the genetic makeup of a living organisms by altering their genes. Like, for example, let's say now you know that you have, or let's say you want to produce you want to produce insulin. And maybe or let me just give another example because that one will be data in the case of sickle cell anemia. We know that the major reason that causes sickle cell anemia in humans is a genetic disease, and of course, it is due to mutation in one of the nucleotides in our hemoglobin gene. So, with the knowledge of genetics engineering, you can look at the hemoglobin gene and alter it to remove the nucleotides that is associated with the sickle cell disease and replace it with normal one, and that is genetics engineered. So you can use microorganisms to do that. And also in addition, you can use microorganisms in biofuels. Remember that we have fuels like, for example, petrol. So you can use microorganisms to generate fuel. In drug development, you can use microorganisms to produce drugs. You can use microorganisms to produce vitamins. You can use microorganisms to produce enzymes. You can use microorganisms to produce carbohydrates, which is polysaccharides. You can use microorganisms to produce sugars. You can produce alcohols. You can also use microorganisms to produce organic acid. So, ladies and gentlemen, from this point, what I want you to understand is that when we are talking about microorganisms, it means that they are organisms that actually have a lot of applications. So, they are not only meant for causing disease in humans. They have a lot of application. You can use them to produce a lot of important products. And very importantly, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this. Do you know that there are microorganisms that you can use them in the industry to produce gold? There are what you call gold producing bacteria. There are bacteria that they can be used to produce gold. There is also cement producing bacteria that are used in construction. Like for example, if you have building and you have crack in that building, so you can use microorganisms, place them there and feed them with the required nutrient, and then from there they will start actually uh, healing the crack. So there is no need to get cement, get sand. You just need to add the microorganisms there in the cracking, and of course they will just actually uh, heal the cracking. And more importantly, you can use microorganisms in agriculture. Like, for example, if you realize that you have infertile soil, you can use microorganisms to make it fertile, to increase the fertility of the soil. And you can also use microorganisms in biotechnology. Like, for example, some of the biotechnological products that we have is insulin, we have adrenaline. Remember, you have insulin injection, you have adrenaline injection. So those products, they are products that are produced in we call them biotechnological products. So you can use bacteria to produce such products. So that is why microorganisms are very important in our industries. Then, in addition, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at the importance of or the role of microorganisms in health. So, you see, many microorganisms are essential for maintaining our health, gut microbiome. Like, for example, we have probiotics. So, we said probiotics, what does that mean? A probiotics are beneficial bacteria that can improve our digestion and boost immune system. So we have a group of microorganisms that we call them probiotics, and their major role in our body is to help us to digest some of the undigested food in our body. Because remember, it's not every food product that when we take that actually be digested, because there are some enzymes that are absent in our body and we cannot digest them. So it is actually this microbiome or these probiotics that eat to digest such food products. Like for example, if we take cellulose, a cellulose is a class of carbohydrate that we don't have the enzyme that digests such kind of carbohydrate. So it is these microorganisms probiotic that are found in our gut that aids in the digestion of such class of foods. And then immune system. They also aids in boosting our immunity because sometimes our immunity goes up and sometimes it goes down. So these microorganisms, they are very important. That is the probiotics in boosting our immunity so that to prevent any kind of infection in our body. And so also very importantly, the microorganisms are also important in synthesizing some vitamins. There are some microorganisms in our body that, of course, we cannot synthesize such kind of vitamins in our body. Rather, it is this class of microorganisms. Yes, you are welcome. Thank you from Milayo. So you are welcome. So these microorganisms can also produce vitamins in our body. So all this is just for you to understand that microorganisms, they are not meant to cause only disease. In fact, the beneficial microorganisms that we have are even far more than those organisms that can cause disease. And of course, microorganisms are everywhere. We have them in our water, we have them in the foods that we are taking, we have them in air, and they are everywhere. So some of them, they are very friendly, and some of them they are very dangerous. So like for example here, those that boost our immunity, they are important. Those that improve digestion of some class of molecules in our body, they are also important. And of course you can see clearly from here some of those microorganisms, they are important in producing vitamins. Like for example, these microorganisms can produce vitamin B2, vitamin B12, and vitamin C. Like, for example, you can see clearly here, ladies and gentlemen, Aspergillus niger is a microorganism that produces vitamin C. And that there is also Pseudomonas denitrificans, they produce vitamin B12. And then the vitamin B2 is produced by Neurospora gossyphi, and also uh, Aromathecium ashby. So all these are the group of microorganisms that are important in our health. Like for example, they produce vitamins in our body. So you see from here, ladies and gentlemen, I think you can clearly see that one, we have probiotics. So ladies and gentlemen, you should understand this. It is very important. The probiotics is to improve digestion of some food in our body, and they can also help in boosting our immunity. And also, more importantly, these microorganisms that can also produce vitamins in our body. So let's move to the next slide. I hope you understand this slide. Do you understand this slide, ladies and gentlemen? So then the next thing is nutrient cycling. So microorganisms, they can also eat in the nutrient cycling, like nitrogen, like carbon cycling, water. So they are very important in the nutrient cycling. For example, some of these microorganisms, they decompose organic nutrients, recycling nutrient back to the atom, to the ecosystem. So you can use microorganisms in trying to recycle nutrients like carbon, nitrogen, and others. Then these microorganisms, they break down complex substances, making nutrient available for plants and other organisms. Okay, Emmanuel Auta, you are welcome. So what I'm saying here is that these microorganisms, what they are doing, let's say you have dead plants or you have dead organisms. So these microorganisms can help to degrade or to digest or to break down that organic matter, which can be plants, which can be dead plant, dead animals, into nutrients. And that nutrient will cycle back into the ecosystem for other organisms to benefit from it. So this process is fundamental for soil fertility and agricultural productivity. Like for example, let's say you have dead animal. Why do we have manure? Most of the manure is coming from dead plant, dead animals. So when they are die, it is those microorganisms that break them, decompose them into nutrient. So when you take that nutrient and you actually put it in land, it will eat or it will help in increasing the fertility of that particular soil. So I think from here you understand. So let's see, as human being, when we die, we usually take to grave. So there are microorganisms there. So that is why we decay, and some part of our body, all part of our body will be degraded, including the nutrient. They will actually disintegrate themselves from our body, and it's the aid of this microorganism. So the carbon in my body, the nitrogen in my body, the sulfur in my body will now be utilized by other organisms and use it for their own survival and development. So that is one of the role of microorganisms. So the carbon dioxide, the nutrient is actually coming from there. So, ladies and gentlemen, then the next thing that we are going to look at is bioremediation. So generally, ladies and gentlemen, we should understand that microorganisms, they are they have so many applications. So you can use microorganisms to degrade environmental pollutant. Like for example, generally we know that the presence of lead in our environment is very dangerous. The presence of, apart from lead, the presence of copper in our environment is very dangerous. So we don't need them in our land. And of course, some of them we don't even need them in water because they kills those organisms that are in water. You are welcome, Alex. So therefore, now what I want you to understand is that with the help of these microorganisms, it can help you to clean the environmental pollutants. It can also help in cleaning of contaminated sites. Like for example, let's say you have a land where there is oil spillage that cannot even support the growth of plants. So with the use of microorganisms, you can use them to remove or to clean off all those spill oils, chemicals. And very importantly, in fact, now you can use some of the microorganisms in refinery to refine oil, and that is bioremediation. So bioremediation means is the use of microorganisms to clean off environment or to remove contaminant or to remove pollutant in the environment. That is bioremediation. So bioremediation, they are used, these microorganisms, they are used in bioremediation processes to detoxify soil. So if you have toxic soil, you can use microorganisms to remove those toxic soil. And you can also use microorganisms to detoxify water and air. Let's assume in air there are a lot of, let's say, microorganisms that are not actually, or that can cause disease or that can cause problem. So there are some microorganisms that you can use to clean up those organisms or to clean up those toxic chemicals that are present in air. So this natural method is often more sustainable and cost effective than chemical treatment. So there are chemical treatment, you can use chemicals to clean your environment. You can use chemical to clean your environment. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please, I also want to say something. Please, when do you think we should start answering past question paper? Because we need to get time and start solving past question paper so that for you to easily pass your examination this time around. Like for example, I know that for those of you that are members in my YouTube channel, I have uploaded a lot of videos on physiology and biochemistry. So I think, and also even this microbiology. So I think if you can have time to start going through some of the first question paper will be very important. So when do you think we can start going through the first question paper? Okay, Chinwendu Wahiri, you are welcome. Sylvester, you are also welcome. So that is what I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen. So it is better to use microorganisms to clean off your environment than chemical treatment. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, I hope from here you can see that clearly these microorganisms, they are very important. They are not only meant to cause disease in humans. You see, they can undergo detoxification, they can remove metals through, and these are the different processes that are used in bioremediation, which include detoxification, bioaccumulation, bioleaching, biotransformation, bioabsorption, and bioprecipitation. So these are the six major processes in which microorganisms use to remove toxic substances or to clean pollutants or contaminated soil. Detoxification, bioaccumulation, bioleaching, biotransformation, biosorption, and bioprecipitation. So these are the methods that are used in removing or in cleaning environment. So then the next thing that we are going to look at, ladies and gentlemen, is the applications or the use of microorganisms in agriculture and food production, and crop production. So microorganisms enhance soil health and fertility, promoting better crop yield. So with the use of microorganisms, you didn't say anything about the answering the past question paper. So microorganisms can of course use in soil health and also increasing the fertility of the soil. So once you use microorganisms to increase the fertility and the health of the soil, it means that the yield of that particular soil will increase because the nutrients that are required for the growth of crops are available. Like for example, mycorrhizal fungi form symbiotic relationship with plant, improving nutrient offtake. So see, this is one of the example of fungi that relates with our plant, and as a result of that, it leads to improving nutrient uptake. So some bacteria like nitrogen fixing bacteria enhancing, or they are not, that they are important in enriching the soil and reducing the need for chemical fertilizers. So if you have this kind of nitrogen fixing bacteria, the examples of these mycorrhizal fungi, they are very, very important in improving the fertility of the soil. So instead of using chemical substances, you can just use some of these microorganisms to actually improve the fertility and the health of your soil. Okay, so let's start the treating the first question paper next week. So Auta said we should actually maybe fix next week to start answering the first question paper. Do you agree with Auta? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the application of microorganisms in agriculture and crop production. So then the next thing is food production, the use of microorganisms in food production. So microorganisms play a vital role in a fermentation process of various foods. And what is fermentation? Fermentation is a process whereby microorganisms uses their enzymes or the microorganisms themselves to produce. The problem is from my sides. Okay, I hope you can now see the slide. So what I'm saying now here is with these microorganisms, you can also produce food products, and so there are many food products that can be generated from microorganisms. So microorganisms they play a vital role in the fermentation process of food. So what is fermentation? A fermentation is the process of producing a product of industrial application with enzymes or the microorganisms itself. So you can use enzymes from microorganisms. You can use enzymes from microorganisms or their microorganisms themselves to produce various products. And these microorganisms that are responsible for producing yogurt. So you can use microorganisms to produce yogurt, to produce cheese, press bread, and fermented beverages. So you see, microorganisms are important in producing this. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I all want you to understand here is that in this lecture, it is just trying to show you how microorganisms can be employed to produce or to have other application rather than causing diseases. So they are not only meant to cause disease, they are not only meant to cause disease. So it's not all every microorganism that cause disease in human. And then very importantly, these microorganisms use fermentation process not only to preserve food but also enhance its nutritional value. So it's not only producing the food itself, the microorganisms can also be used to add nutritional values. You see that sometimes you can see some class of foods that is not rich in one nutrient. So with the use of microorganisms, you can use that. Like for example, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at this. You see, in one of the pathway that we discussed in Biochem 241, remember we have glucose which converted to pyruvate, and the process is called glycolysis. So using microorganisms like aspergillus, lactobacillus, they can be used to actually produce lactic acids, and this lactic acid can be used in soy sauce, and of course the lactobacillus thermophilus is an example of bacteria that converts pyruvate to lactic acids, and this lactic acid produced from pyruvate using lactobacillus they use in producing cheese and yogurt. And then very importantly, the pyruvate here at the same times using Saccharomyces fungi, they can be used to convert pyruvate to ethanol plus carbon dioxide, which used in beer. And then still Saccharomyces can also convert pyruvate to ethanol, which also used in producing wine. Then in addition, still the same pyruvate can be used, sorry, the same pyruvate can be used by Saccharomyces cerevisiae to produce carbon dioxide, which used in bread production. So this is to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this fermentation process, all this lactic acid production, ethanol production, and carbon dioxide, they are all produced by microorganisms using fermentation process. Okay, Zainab Sani, you are welcome. So this is actually the application of microorganisms in food production. Then the next thing after this is the fermentation itself. So the fermentation, of course, is a chemical process by which molecules such as glucose are breaking down anaerobically. So usually fermentation process takes place anaerobically, that is in the absence of oxygen, using enzymes or microorganisms. So the breakdown glucose anaerobically, that is in the absence of oxygen, using enzymes or the entire microorganisms to produce a food product. Like for example, some of the substrates that are used, some of the food substrates that are used by the microorganism in producing the products. We have milk, we have cereals, soybean, lentils, then vegetables where we have cabbage, carrot, and mango, fruits like apple and grapes, animal based like meat and fish. They can be used as a substrate placed in a fermenter, that is fermenter, and then the microorganisms will be placed. A fermenter is like a container where the fermentation process takes place. So when you have your fermenter, then you now add your microorganisms, you add this substrate, then during the ferment or through the fermentation process, the following products will be generated. So the dairy products that can be produced, you can from milk, you can generate cheese, you can generate butter, you can produce kefir and yogurt, and then for the grains, you can actually produce bread, beer, and Gioli, Idil, and Sike. And then for the vegetables as a substrate, you can also produce kimchi, you can produce aka in bracket pickles, dochi, meju, and miso. All these are the products. So, ladies and gentlemen, all this is just for you to understand that for the fermentation process to take place in producing products, then you need a substrate, the microorganisms, you'll take your microorganisms, the substrate, will all add them in the fermentation or in the fermenter. So under standard fermentation condition, those products and those substrate and the microorganisms will now undergo fermentation process to produce so many products. And very importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the benefit of some of the products generated from this fermentation process by microorganisms will have many applications. Like for example, some of the products they are very important to protect us against type 2 diabetes, They are also important in regulation of refit profile and also weight loss. The gut health, also some of these products of the microorganisms, they are also important in promotion of health of healthy microbiome. They are also very important in boosting our immunity. They can also produce antioxidants. Sorry, some of the products have antioxidant properties. So this is actually some of the application of fermentation process. So then the next thing is actually biotechnological application. So microorganisms you are utilized in the production of antibiotics and vaccine, and they serve as a model organisms for genetics research and biotechnological development. So some of the microorganisms here they are used in genetics research and also in producing biotechnological products. So genetics engineering of microorganisms can lead to innovation in medicine and agriculture. So for you to get this, ladies and gentlemen, these microorganisms they are also very, very important in biotechnology. And what is biotechnology? A biotechnology is a technology that living organisms use either they sorry where yeah a biotechnology is a process whereby a living organisms or part of living organism or the entire organisms use to produce a product that is of industrial application or that is beneficial to humans. So with the microorganisms, we can produce a lot of biotechnological products like insulin, drugs, and so many others. So then, apart from the biotechnological application, it also have industrial application where these microorganisms are employed in manufacturing of enzymes used in various industries. So you can produce enzymes like, for example, the enzymes that are used in detergent for cleaning, they are produced from microorganisms. So, and of course, some of these microorganisms are used in textile, in paper, and biofuel industries for more sustainable production processes. So the use of microorganisms can lead to reduced energy consumption and waste generation. So if we can use microorganisms, they can aid to reduce a lot of energy consumption and also reduced waste in the environment. And you can see clearly from the diagram here. Some of these microorganisms are used to produce household items. You can use some of the microorganisms in biocatalysis. You can use them in biotechnological research and development. You can use them in diagnosis, food and beverages, animal feed, and pharmaceuticals. Like, for example, some of these microorganisms, you can use them in producing single cell protein for producing nutrients to animals like hen here, even human. So then the environmental benefits. So microorganisms contribute to ecosystem stability and biodiversity. So they help in the formation of soil structure and retention of moisture benefiting plant life. So their presence is essential for the health of aquatic system, aiding in nutrient cycling. We should understand that these microorganisms they also have environmental effects. So, in conclusion, microorganisms are indispensable for human health, environmental sustainability, and industrial process. Their diverse roles highlight the importance of preserving microbial ecosystems. So, recognizing and harnessing their benefit can lead to more sustainable future. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually the end of this lecture. It is a very brief one, but what I want you to understand is that the more important things with this lecture is that it's just trying to show you that some of these microorganisms they are beneficial and they are important. They are not meant to cause disease. So it's not every microorganisms that cause disease. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this video or you find this lecture very interesting, and I can also give you time to look at what we have discussed. And if there is any questions, you can ask me so that we can have a further discussion. So, do you have any questions concerning what we have discussed? Is there any questions? Is there any questions? Okay, so no questions. So you see, all this thing that we discuss is just for you to have a highlight that microorganisms, they are very important in our health. In fact, the absence of some microorganisms in our body can lead to our death. It can lead to so many diseases. So, in the absence of any questions, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to uh, Fatima Sani, Zainab Sani, Chongwendu Wahiri. You all didn't join my YouTube channel. You didn't join. And you see, very soon we are going to start solving past question paper. And if you didn't register as a member, you may not have access to those videos. So you should try as much as possible to join it. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the absence of any questions, we are now going to end it till we meet next time. Okay, Zainab Sani, thank you very much also for attending the lecture. So see you next.